It is Friday the 13th again. Not only is it Friday the 13th, but it is Friday the 13th in October of all months. Doesn't happen all that often. Last time it happened was 2017. It is currently 2023. The next time it'll happen is 2028. So we decided to enjoy a couple of Friday the 13th movies, the original 1980 Camp Counselor Murder Fest, and of course, the 2009 remake. And the question is, are either of these movies enjoyable? Do they stand up to the name that has been built as one of the pillars of horror right next to Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street? Or are they best left forgotten in the pool of blood we found them in? This is Last Page. Issue 26 of Last Page. Thank you for joining us on this most horror-y of up to Halloween standards. I am your humble host, Maverick King, joined today by the lovely Monica Bryant. You can check out her filmmaking channel in the description below. Also joining me and us across the seas of the internet, Rembo. And, of course, as always, Jason Cedars to bring on the positivity. But will he be positive today? One can only assume yes or no. Please, of all the things that we can talk about today, it might as well be, it's Friday the 13th again. When will our misery ever end? Friday the 13th is a 1980 horror movie that was made on a shoestring budget of less than $1 million, but blew up at the box office. And fast forward 40 some odd years, we have now, it really is, as I said in the preamble, Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street. Those are kind of the movies that started the horror franchise genre. Then we eventually got movies like Saw, and it is interesting to look back. And when I saw this movie initially, I did not care for it. I was like, I don't understand what all the hype was about. And then we, for the first time since seeing it originally, saw it. We rewatched it, and I was like, does it change my opinion? Do I look back fondly and oh no, it's better than it was or not? And I'm curious what everyone has to think. So please like and subscribe and like. We're going to review both the 1980 original horror classic Friday the 13th and the 2009. It is a sequel remake. It's kind of blurry where exactly it falls in. I'm not the biggest of Friday the 13th connoisseurs, so maybe someone out there is like, oh, this one's a remake of the third. I don't know. But bottom line is we're watching the Friday the 13th 1980 and the 2009 Friday the 13th. You can look in the timestamps if you just want to skip to the 2009 remake review. We'll do that. But first, let us do the 1980 remake. First of all, let's get to the box office statistics. This movie was released on May 9th, 1980, and it budget was approximately $550,000, which even back then, basically nothing. Opening weekend made $5.8 roughly million, and worldwide grossed $59 million off of $550,000 budget. So giant success, and it's easy to see. Halloween came out in 78. This movie came out in 80, and Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 84. So it's easy to see people figured out that if you could make one of these cheap horror movies and got captured the imagination of the audience, that it could spark a multi-million dollar franchise. I won't put the B on it quite yet. So yes, a big success. According to the International Movie Database, the plot of the original Friday the 13th is a group of camp counselors trying to reopen a summer camp called Crystal Lake, which has a grim past, are stalked by a mysterious killer. Rembo, which viewing of Friday the 13th, the 1980 original, was this for you?
Second
viewing. So Rembo, kick us off. After Rembo, Jason, go ahead and take over. After Jason, Monica, go ahead and give your thoughts on watching it and which viewing number roughly it was for everybody. So Rembo, kick us off. Friday the 13th, the original, 1980. Your thoughts. We are going to go full spoilers. If you haven't seen this movie over the last 40 years, go fuck yourself. So go ahead, Rembo. What do you think about the movie?
I am shocked that this became a franchise. I have no idea how that happened. It's so boring. It's so boring. It's like when I saw the runtime, I was like, oh yes, nice. It's an hour and a half. Like this will be quick. And then somehow I'm like, I forgot how freaking boring this movie is. It's just the kills are not that exciting, and it's so slow, and like nothing that anybody does is interesting. The dialogue is boring. Like it's literally all the interesting stuff, and even then it's not that great. It's just packed right into the last 10 minutes of the movie. But overall, as a viewing, I was just like, this is the last time I'll watch this movie. I don't need to see this movie more than twice.
Ram, you're absolutely right. I mean, it is not a good movie. That's like, I know it's like the positivity that usually I can find in these sort of things, but I think that's what it is known as like not a great movie. It is your legacy of the slasher kind of genre. Because I mean, horror is something different. I don't know if this quite falls into the horror, because it's so funny how vague, kind of the description is. Does it mean you have jump scares? Which, sitting next to my wife, she had a couple jump scares during this, her first time watching it. She's going to kill me for saying that. She's like, you better not say in last page that this made me have jump scares to it, this lame ass movie, It's like, but there's a couple of those. So does that mean it's a horror? But this is more of those slashers, but slashers are supposed to have these memorable kills, and this one doesn't quite pull off that as far as some memorable ones. I'd say Buddy hanging on the doorway with the arrows might be the best, or the fact it's Kevin Bacon getting his throat slashed might be also a very memorable kill. But I think a lot of those type of movies like bank off that, and this was kind of starting that, because like you said, Mav, this is the second essentially in the genre, which we're probably missing a whole lot of like older, maybe some cult classic, Black and White or something along those lines. But this is, starting with Halloween and seeing that success and being like, yeah, let's do another one of these with a shoestring budget. And I even read in some articles with it that they weren't casting actors based on their acting skills. They were casting them based on their likability and what that they would pull off being a camp counselor more than their acting. So they were just like, man, just kind of throw out these lines. As long as you can kind of be sexy and look the 70s camp counselor role, then that's good enough for this. That is the bar they even set on the movie themselves going into it. So it's like, we can't really hold this on the pedestal, but it's more than anything. I think this is just like a legacy. This is something, the foundation that this entire franchise was built off of. But what's even funnier about that the guy who created this, the writer, never wanted the son to be the murderer. He always wanted this woman figure, this unassuming mom to be this murder kind of figure, and he thought it'd be so like a cop out to make it the son again. So it's funny that is the legacy. This is not what the guy even started. So it's like, that's what excites me more about this movie, is I really like what this is, the lore building and the foundation of the slasher horror genre. And yeah, this is not a good movie, and I can't wait to make fun of a lot of the scenes in this, but and along with the next one too. But yeah, no, this is my countless time watching this movie. I can't even remember how many times I've seen this one. And it's got to be close to double digits, because this was one of those movies that would be on a horror channel or something late at night that I would always let play. There's always Friday the 13th marathons, on one of those cable TV networks. So I absolutely loved it. And my first name being Jason, I dressed up as Jason Voorhees mini Halloween. So I also felt like I had to study these movies and know the character that I portrayed for countless Halloweens too. So no, I'm actually really, really excited to talk about these movies, even of how bad they actually are.
I don't know how many times I've watched this movie either. I've definitely seen it before, but it's been maybe like a decade since I last watched it, so I did forget some parts. I forgot that Kevin Bacon was in this movie. I'm just like, I made a comment about like, oh my god, like they didn't realize they had Kevin Bacon in their movie and they killed him off so early. Like they didn't know who they had.
The first degree of Kevin Bacon was right here. The first.
Yeah. And I also didn't remember the girl Annie in the beginning. I didn't remember her getting killed off so early. Like she doesn't even make it to the camp. And I completely forgot about that. And it felt kind of like such a waste because we spent so much time with her. and then she's just like, she doesn't even meet the other camp counselors. So I was a little disappointed in that. There's parts of the movie where I'm like, that was actually great and could have been something amazing, but then it does feel really long, even though it was an hour and 30 minutes. I thought it was way longer than that. I thought it was like 2 hours. But there's parts that really drag, and you're just like, they're being murdered by the cameraman. That's interesting. It's an interesting choice for them. Like, yeah. So I I do see how this movie could turn into a big franchise, because a lot of horror movies do. There's not that many like classic horror films that are just a one off. Everything has a sequel and a franchise nowadays. So this is exactly the type of monster that you can keep bringing back, because he's like Michael Myers in the way that he's the boogeyman. So you think you killed him, but you really didn't, because he's going to be back for part 17.
This movie I did not like when I first saw it. I rated it whenever I saw it 15 odd years ago. I gave it a 3 out of 10 on IMDb. Like, I hated this movie apparently when I saw it, because I just thought it was so boring and vanilla. And then I watched it again, and slightly better, I guess, but overall, I'm much more of a Halloween guy. I think what this movie tried to do, and Halloween came out 2 years before this, so this movie clearly was, let's recapture that magic. And to me, Halloween does everything right. This movie does wrong. A lot of this movie, I guess, what I can give this movie credit for is that it incorporates a POV cam of the murderer, and you don't know. And I think that's what, when I originally saw it, when you think Friday the 13th, you think Jason Voorhees. He's this iconic person. Even if you've never seen a movie from the Friday the 13th, you know Jason Voorhees. He's very much an Americana classic film character. And so it is interesting that and we're already talking spoilers, but basically part of this movie is the whole twist of the movie, which is that you think, if in my mind, I'm like, oh, Jason Voorhees is going to be killing all these people, because he's already established when I watch this movie as the killer. And the movie plays, and the twist plays like it subverts your expectations, is that it's someone else. But if you watch this movie like from the get-go, just as its own movie, and don't think of it as Jason Voorhees' movie, the twist is so mishandled and so done poorly that it ruins what they were trying to accomplish. And yes, the kills are very lackluster, other than I do like Kevin Bacon's kill in this movie. But it is a part of a genre that, the cabin in the woods, the whole idea of people going to the woods, a bunch of young kids going into the woods getting slaughtered. It's not done as well as the Evil Dead movies that do that concept much better and much more effective. But again, like when I saw, and I guess the most comparable to me seeing a movie contemporarily, I couldn't have seen this movie because it was before I was born in 1980, but Paranormal Activity. When I saw Paranormal Activity, I was like, this movie's fucking stupid. I don't care that it's done on a shoestring budget. I don't care that it's people making the best movie they can with it. Like, it just, to me, this movie fucking sucks. It's boring. I don't like it. And to me, when I saw it in theater and people were like, oh, and they were freaking out, I was like, why are you guys freaking out? The curtain moved. And it's very similar to this movie, that I could see why people went into this movie and were like, oh, it's scary because people are getting killed. But really, to me, it's just not effective. So anyway, that kind of sets the table for Friday the 13th. Jason, you said, this movie is named. You are Jason. This movie is Jason Voorhees is a part of the lore of this. What are your overall, the characters? They go to Crystal Lake. They're camp counselors. They're there to fuck off, basically. And then all of a sudden, there's the music, which does play a big part of this. But generally speaking, kind of the progression of the plot, the kills of the movie. Did you find anything about it intriguing or interesting, or is all of it just kind of a waste of time?
I think you guys are absolutely right. The biggest like content of this movie is the last 20 minutes. That is, what the core of the legacy and everything moving forward. But that first like hour over plus, is them just demonizing 70s, essentially 70s. It feels like these are 70s camp counselors, and it's like they do this in every horror movie. It's like, okay, how can we make it so the audience will not feel bad when these people are being killed? This is essentially what any horror movie does for the first hour of it. And this one doesn't do it quite as well, because they maybe drink a couple beers. They maybe smoke a joint. I think one gets passed around, which they don't even really even talk about it being weed, but you can kind of tell it is. And maybe one sex scene in the first one, which we don't even get to see a whole lot of stuff, which is crazy as far as horror movies goes, and me and my wife talking about like the most provocative part of the movie was homegirl walking around without a bra pretty much the entire movie. It's like, was that like the 80s, like, oh my god, she deserves to be killed but not wearing a bra? Like that's essentially what this whole beginnings of these horror movies are, and am I not allowed to jump to the next movie as much, the remake?
I mean, if you want to like slightly, but like overall, we'll set up the next movie a little later. But if there's something you want to touch on that is an easy comparison, go ahead.
Just a quick, easy comparison as far as when the remake is, it's immediately slasher kill. They're like, they know what the moviegoers are wanting to see immediately, and it's boobs and killing. It's like boom, boom. Okay, we got it done in the first 10. This is just a very, very drawn out to that, where it's like, okay, I'm now gonna, I guess, be okay with Kevin Bacon being killed while he's on the mattress after sex. Oh my god, he had sex, which. That means that old Mrs. Voorhees was laying underneath that bed the entire time it was going on. That's what I want to talk about with a lot of these kills. She is like there for a while. It's not like she enters the room in like Jason does. He's this massive force. She is like this little ninja who's hiding around. It's like laying underneath beds while people are having sex until the most opportune moment, and then over the top and slice the throat sort of thing. And then her Hulk level of strength where she can position some of these bodies. Remember, she throws a body through the window at the very end into the girl in the kitchen. That's little old Miss Voorhees just taking this massive man, I think it's a man, it's a old girl at that point, tossing her through the window, So, I mean, this is, it does suck where it gets a little more supernatural as we go into the other Friday the 13th, but this is supposed to be a very normal woman. And I'm even like looking up to see if the actress has some backgrounds of like being an acrobat or like
Jason, you did more research than the producers, directors, and writers of this movie.
Because your scenes where Miss Voorhees is just like flipping and like dodging around that room and jumping around like a little cat or something. I'm like, this is some, I guess, what is she? Some soap opera actress. I think she was before this or something, But I just do enjoy how they spend so much time in movies like these demonizing people. And then when we get to see finally the kills, we're supposed to be like kind of satisfied with it. But no, dude, I did so much research on this movie. I like where the score, the now you see what I did right there? I did the that is wrong. It's saying me, kill. They're saying like the mother kill thing. I had to write this down because it's ki ma. It's saying kill ma. That's what the guy said. What she keeps uttering at the end, as far as the mom, like kill mommy, kill. That's what that thing is ki. I was like, oh, I learned something with all this research from all these time, just some cool things. But I swear, like how, because Jaws came out in 78,
75, 7.
What's your favorite movie?
You really should know that, Mav.
Yeah.
Okay. The 70s, a lot of drugs in the 70s.
You weren't doing drugs in the 70s.
But if I was, it would have been a lot of drugs, let me tell you. 75, I was right. Fuck all of you.
There you go. So they even talked about the composer like wanting to do the music just like Jaws, where we hear this dun dun dun, and like in Jaws, you only hear the music when the shark is supposed to be on the screen. As in this movie, the whole movie is silent except for music when the killer could possibly be in the scene at some times. But that's why some points where there's what is it kind of for, where the guy is setting up the archery thing the first time, the arrow just whizzes by. Oh, it's a girl setting up. There's no music or anything during that time, so you should be like aware that there's going to be no murders happening there, so you can rest easy as far as the audience goes, but dude, shit like that is why I so like enjoyed this movie. There's so much of like this like behind the scenes stuff, and the detective part of it. It isn't just a straight up murder slash thing. This writer was trying to throw in some characters where you could think that they were going to be other people, because we don't think it's Mrs. Voorhees at all. We think it's Crazy Ralph for a lot of this movie, and especially that's another point. How long was he hiding in that cabinet or that pantry for? He jumps out of that pantry at Homegirl. Like, they were in that house for a long time. So he was hours just chilling in that pantry, just waiting for that prime opportunity to jump out at someone. So there's a lot of patience from people in this movie. But as you can see, I could ramble on about random shit like this about this movie. So please, someone take over and jump on something else.
So yes, you've touched upon the big, and it's fine because like this, the movie really talk about it. You do have to talk about the fact that the basic reveal of the movie. The big thing is that when you're watching this movie, all you're getting when people are getting killed is a POV of the killer, and it's kind of following through the forest of people, and people are getting killed, but you never see the killer. And so you assume it's some crazy killer or person, but then the person's not revealed until the last act of the movie as this character you haven't met to this point, which is this old lady wearing a sweater. This old lady wearing a sweater is doing the killing, and she's doing on behalf of her son that drowned in the lake, Jason, who was like, help, help, help. And the camp counselors did nothing. So these new camp counselors, she is now taking out her vengeance on.
Well, they did.
It is a very cool twist. Other than the fact that it's not set up at all, there's no like introducing her earlier in the movie to make it interesting. Of she's this nice lady that the people meet, and they're like, "Oh, hey, Mrs. Voorhees. Oh, she's a nice lady." And then she shows up, and then you realize she's the killer. There's no setup like that at all. You don't know who Jason is unless you've seen the movies, or you just know of Jason from American culture. But it's set up so poorly. But it is a cool twist if they were able to do it correctly, which they were not. So that is kind of the premise of the movie, is that all these kills are happening, and this lady is just once you start thinking about it, you're like, there's no fucking way this old ass lady in a sweater was killing these fucking 20-year-olds. 0% chances could happen. And it just kind of just derails the whole movie, because Halloween, all these kills are happening, and Michael Myers, you're just like, yeah, that fucking giant dude could kill all these people easily. It's understandable as to why he's so scary. But old lady McGillicuddy, when she's killing people and then, she's doing her thing, you're like, yeah, I don't buy this for a second. Remington, you've talked about that you don't, the kills aren't that great. Is the twist enough for you of her being the killer that somehow makes the movie worthwhile, or is it just throw the baby out with the bathwater?
I like the I agree with what you said. I like the idea. It's just it's executed so poorly that by the time I got to it, I'm just like, I don't even care. I want this movie to be over. Like, that's basically how I felt at the end of it. So I like the idea. Because that's really what I thought. I was just like, because the only thing they set up with the whole movie is they're like obviously there's the very, very, very first scene where the two kids get killed in the 50s. It's like the two kids scamper off and they get killed. And then it's like fast forward to modern day, and then all you hear is like one person. I think the driver that's driving the girl up to the camp says, the truck driver, he says something to the extent of, he's like, well, you heard about the people that went missing, or like the fires that happened, and the two people that got killed and the kid that drowned. That's all they say. Literally, that's all the info you get until Mrs. Voorhees shows up and goes, I'm Mrs. Voorhees. My son died in this scene. And it's just like, then it all unravels really quickly. But then again, the fighting between them is so bad. So bad.
Between her and just to set it up, just
Yes.
between at the final, like she shows up after she's killed almost everybody. There's one girl left, and the girl is revealed like she is face to face with Mrs. Voorhees, and Mrs. Voorhees is trying to kill her, and chaos ensues.
She has the pot. She has the pot. She just
They
nails
like
her.
run. It's like a Looney Tunes fight. Like they run in and out of the same building like 3 times. Meow, meow. Like, and she like KOs her. She the young girl KOs Mrs. Voorhees like 3 times and doesn't think at all. Like, oh, let me grab her weapon. Like, let me kill her on the spot. It's literally, she gives her so many opportunities to get back up and then come get her. And it's like, it really misses like all the kills. For the most part, they're so lackluster in the suspense. And I feel like that's exactly how the ending is too, because they're just shot so plainly and it's just POV. And then it's like a really uninteresting throat slit, or even the girl that gets the axe to the head. It pans away and then goes back, and then she just has the axe in her head, which it's a lot scarier if you actually see the axe go into her face. And then that last scene just really tanks it, because I'm like, you just see her fumbling all over the place, and you're like, there's no way this lady slaughtered an entire camp. And there's like a guy who's hanging from a tree. Like, she hangs one of the guys from a tree who like plops down. How is she doing this? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
In strength,
Dude. I mean, that's the thing. Like, she's a little bit taller of a woman, right? You can kind of tell when she's squared up next to the girl. She's a little bit taller. So, but it's just by the time you get there, it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But then it's just the silliness of them fighting. And I get it's the 80s and they hadn't really locked down a lot of good fighting choreography just then, but it just, you could have picked somebody maybe a little bit more physically imposing or believable.
The most frustrating part about that whole reveal and the whole section when they're fighting is when we first get introduced to the blonde girl, that character. She's like up on a ladder. She's like nailing shit. She looks like she's capable of defending herself. But once she's squared up with Mrs. Voorhees, she's suddenly helpless. And it's just like, and like falling all over herself. And I'm like, no, I just watched you rig a rope in the ceiling to keep the door shut and like pile all this stuff to keep somebody from opening the door. And now suddenly you can't defend yourself? Like, what do you mean? You were just using a hammer like 3 scenes ago. And now you can't fight this old lady. It's so ridiculous. I also don't understand how like so many of the kills happen off screen and then suddenly they find the bodies. Like, how did Mrs. Voorhees get that dude on the door with the 3 arrows? Because he's like off the ground. His feet are not on the floor. He's like elevated. How did she do that?
The force. It was the force from the arrows that launched him into the door.
It's just so ridiculous. I can't. I don't know. I don't buy it. And it was too long. They really should have just cut that down. And like you were saying, either introduce Mrs. Voorhees earlier in the movie so that we just think she's a harmless old lady. Because like when she comes in and then she's like, my son Jason died and it was your fault. And you're like, whoa, 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 lady. Like, you're coming in hot. Like, what is going on?
Who are you?
She went from 0 to 100 and it was insane.
It's like that classic meme of like, I've been plotting against you for years. And I'm like, who are you? I don't even know who you are.
It was bad.
Yeah. That is the thing, is that the reveal is is interesting until it's required of Mrs. Voorhees to actually physically try to kill someone on screen, which just looks so preposterous, because like she's chasing around in a sweater, the younger lady, and again, Halloween, when Michael Myers is chasing you and he's subdued for like 5 seconds, you're like, gotta get out of here, gotta run, gotta hide, because this giant dude's about to like gonna kill me, and I'm just a teenager. I'm I'm not gonna, like, I can't just kill him instantly. Like, it's just, I'm too overwhelmed with emotion. It makes sense as to why you would try to run and hide immediately after you subdue him. But when grandma is subdued and you're like, I gotta hide in the closet and hope she doesn't find me, it really just sinks like what you were trying to accomplish. The twist only would have worked had you set her up early and then you only reveal her at the last second and she doesn't have to do anything physical on screen. Because the moment you start thinking about her trying to subdue all these kids, it doesn't work. But there is the cool end of the movie where the last camp counselor lady kills she chops her head off. She chops Mrs. Voorhees' head off, which is a pretty violent fucking moment. And then she, for some reason, goes out into the lake, which again doesn't really make any sense, other than like she has PTSD and she doesn't know. Like, I'm gonna go out into the lake. It would have made more sense if her and Mrs. Voorhees were in the canoe together fighting, and then she killed her, and then she's just like passes out in the, like, that would have made more sense. But whatever. She's out in the middle of the lake. There's a cool shot of the hand like bristling over the lake, and then the cops show up. And then the lady's like there, and then fucking Jason Voorhees comes plunging out of the lake and grabs her. And that's sick. It's super cool. And I thought in my brain, I thought that was how the movie ended. I thought it ended with Jason Voorhees grabbing her and pulling her into the lake. But no, it ends like, spoiler alert for a movie that's almost 100 years old, but Invasion of the Body Snatchers back in the 50s, it was supposed to end with this dude running out into the highway, being like, "The body snatchers are here. They're out to kill us." And then it was supposed to end this like very like dreary ending. But no, Hollywood was, back then, it had codes of like, you can't have a movie end depressingly. So they were like, "Oh no! Then you have to cut to the hospital where he wakes up and he's like, no! Like, tell everyone." And then like the cop calls and he's like, "Hey, there's body snatchers out there. You got to save them." And that's how the movie ends. So this movie is kind of similar, where like she cuts to the hospital and she's like, "Oh my God, I imagined it," or whatever. And to me, I was just like, oh, it would have been so much better if it just ended with Jason pulling her under, and then that's it. You don't know if Jason was also doing the killing, or if it's just supernatural, or if she just imagined it. That would have been cooler. Anyway, rambling. Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, let me jump on that. So actually, the movie was supposed to end with her just to the boat, with her fingers in the water, the fall colors and everything. Boom, end. That was what the original ending was. Hollywood made them add everything else after that. So Jason jumping out of the water and then the hospital scene was totally like an extra thing to be able to make sequels and stuff like that. So and it's very jarring, because that is one of the coolest parts of the movie, because that's where it becomes a little supernatural, where you can start to be like, okay, there's other things going on. I can believe maybe Miss Voorhees had the power of the devil in her to throw people away in trees or something. She can resurrect dead sons from underneath the water, which the whole rest of the genre now plays on psychics. Like, psychics are a big part of how they can connect with Jason and kill him and get him out of the waters and things like that. That's the whole thing that now they move forward with, like a believable, like a counterbalance to his like demonic powers and whatnot. So I always thought that was interesting, because you think it really doesn't happen. The boy comes out of the water and does that, but then she like talks about a boy later on, pulling her under. So it's like, how much of that like really did happen? How much was it in her mind? And how much like it really makes you leave the movie thinking like, were these guys, the body snatchers things, were they in on it? Where it's like, we can't let her know about this Jason kid, which maybe the whole town has like kind of known about. So it does. It's a much better ending, as far as it goes, but it does feel like, yeah, that Hollywood, let's string it out a little bit longer. But yeah, honestly, that's my favorite part, that the last little bit there. But yeah, that's all I had to say on that.
Yeah, let's go ratings and recommendations. Let's go Rembo, Monica, back to Jason. What kind of rating would you give this movie of the horror variety? And would you recommend this to your average viewer?
I did write down a 3 out of 10 while I was watching it, because I was waiting for it to end, and my notes get more negative as I get towards the bottom. And so by the end of it, the last thing I wrote down was 3 out of 10. Also, final thoughts. worst sex scene I've ever seen in my life. Kevin Bacon laying on top of that girl, just barely moving, and they're just both breathing. They're not even moaning. They're just breathing. Awful. Underwear has come a long way. The underwear that they have, not sexy at all. And then the last scene, it was so weird because the cops are watching her. They're literally waving to her and being like, trying to get her. It's like they see her out on the lake and then she gets pulled under and the cops are like, we didn't see anything. So it makes it seem like she definitely imagined it. And then it doesn't make sense because it seems like if they didn't see her and then she got pulled under and then they found her and she woke up in the hospital, then it would make sense why there's confusion. But they're literally out there. They see her and then she gets pulled under allegedly. It's so confusing and it didn't feel like it feels like they just kind of like, let's just throw some weird shit in there. We don't need to think about it that much and it's just unclear. So, I mean, would I recommend it? No. I think there's a lot better horror films out there. Yeah, that is my final thought.
I would say it's a 2.5 out of 5. It's not the best horror movie, but I would recommend it only because it's, Jason Voorhees is a classic monster. And if somebody was diving into it for the first time, you would obviously want to start with the first movie. Even though it's not great, but it's the beginning of everything. So it's important. And also because there's that scene in Scream where Drew Barrymore flubs the question of who's the killer in Friday the 13th. She blows that question. So you need to watch the movie so you know how to answer.
Me next?
Yes.
This is the highest rated movie on IMDb of all the Friday the 13th with a 63.
That's crazy.
So every other Friday the 13th has a lower score than this one.
That's crazy.
Jason did his homework.
Yeah, no, I love this movie. I love it for a lot of other reasons besides it being just a crappy movie. I mean, it's just one of those ones. Like, I feel like this is when you go to the theaters, they do like a Halloween premiere and you throw stuff at the screen at certain scenes, and stuff where they like a Rocky Horror Picture Show or some other like or the Room or something where it creates this cult following. So I mean, I'm very aligned with that. 6 out of 10, kind of in my mind, where it is this just like it's good for many other reasons. Beside, 10 sequels from this, this is it's a foundation of a lot, a lot has come from this, and remakes and video games. I meant to bring this up earlier. There's a PC game, Friday the 13th, the game, which is this movie. And you're essentially playing these camp counselors and the mom and things like that. Like, you pick up her sweater as like a buff, you can find the head and things like that. Like, there's it uses it must be the second one because it's, it is the second movie it's more based on. But that game, if you want that feel of like this movie in a game, that Friday the 13th game pulls it off very well. So, solid 6 out of 10 in my book. And recommended, stamp of approval as a slasher horror genre because it starts
Slash of approval.
I'd recommend this movie to cinephiles. You do have to watch this movie just to understand the horror genre. The twist does make it worthwhile just to examine kind of how it was pulled off and how other movies did it better and worse. 5 out of 10. It's just, I will say that I do like the Kevin Bacon kill. The arrow he's laying on the bed and the arrow comes through his neck, out his like trachea, and it's a very cool effect. Other than that, the kills were kind of mediocre. It is interesting because this movie and we're about to talk about it, but the remake does well of it knows, and movies after this make the characters more douchey and unlikable. So it's more like you're just hoping, you can't wait for them to get killed. This movie, they're just kind of fuck offs. Like, they're just kind of like young people having fun. Like, you're just kind of like, okay, like, I don't hate any of them. They're just kind of whatevers.
Yeah. And you feel really bad when Annie gets killed.
Yeah. And that's a part of the movie, is that it does things that other movies did better. This movie does the twist that other movies do better. This movie does, which Evil Dead did really well, the POV evil cam of you don't know who it is, and the person that picks up Annie, I believe it's Annie, on the side of the freeway, and it's just the shot of her in the car, and the killer is looking at her. There are cool elements of that they incorporate in this movie, and it does feel very raw because movies to this point did not do things like that. But overall, once the twist is revealed, it just kind of falls apart. So, Gemini.
I did want to say my favorite line. The only line that I actually that made me laugh in the first movie is the cop is like, "Don't get smart with me," and he goes, "Me, I'm as dumb as they come." I don't know why that line made me laugh so hard.
Yeah, the comic relief jester character.
Yes. He also goes, "Hold it, Tonto."
Yeah,
there were multiple Indian jokes which would not fly today, but for the time, I did find amusing as to their insensitivity.
Yeah.
Let us move on to the 2009 Friday the 13th, named the same. After I grab a beverage.
Thank you. I also need some water.
I feel like we should do a little break. A little break. I need a beer break. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason, are you watching Gen V?
I am. Yeah. First 3 episodes. What? Yeah. Nothing else has dropped yet, right?
There's 4 episodes now.
4 out now. We've seen
Nice.
2. Remy's seen 3.
5 comes out tomorrow.
Nice. Yeah. No, I'm liking that show a lot, actually. I think we talked about it a little bit already. Yeah, but I'm enjoying it.
And there's Survivor tonight.
Oh my god!
Can't wait.
This is
Hey,
the
that was sarcastic.
biggest anime season ever in anime history. 70 shows dropping in this just this 3-month period right now.
Jason, hit me with it. Which one has the craziest plot line?
Oh, damn. I don't know. Yeah, nothing that I'm watching right now. It's pretty tame, actually, this one. There's a detective where it's the talking head in a bird cage. A dead head in a bird cage is like what they solve crimes with. It's like, yeah. It's that's the whole character is in a bird cage. Yeah, that one's kind of funny.
I love it. The tamest, normalest part of anime is a dead head in a bird cage that comes along to solve mysteries.
Yeah.
Hey man, to be fair, that's not that. That's the same thing as God of War.
I was just gonna say that where he wears the head and it gives him advice
belt rather than in a bird cage. Yeah.
It's different because it's a video game and I like that game. But if it's something I don't like, then it's weird.
What are you drinking on, Mav?
This is now a
Gin on juice, lay
this
back.
is a
Baby.
honey Jack Daniels and 0 Coke.
So it
Monica and I are both full blown into Coke Zeros.
Why?
Coke Zeros, they are the bee's knees.
They're delicious.
Better than regular, just straight up Coke.
No. This is the thing. Just like with Red Bulls and Zero Red Bull sugar frees or whatever. If you just start drinking the sugar free or the Coke Zeros, the key is you cannot go back to regular Coke or regular Red Bulls. Like sugar-free Red Bulls are great until you go back to the original Red Bull and you're like, oh, fuck, this is what I've been missing. Just don't go back to it. Yeah. If you just start getting used to 0 Coke Zeros, they're fucking great.
Cherry flavor and vanilla are boss.
Vanilla Coke Zero is fucking hits.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I guess if I want something different.
You guys are officially moved in for 2 weeks, and you got my boy drinking Coke Zero. What have you done?
Our official drink of our household.
Look how they've massacred my boy. I used to do drugs and psychedelics, and now I'm like, have you guys tried Cherry Coke Zero?
We drink.
Oh wow!
And it's not that I drink cherry Coke; it's we drink cherry Coke.
That's amazing. Oh my god.
All right.
Okay.
The sequel slash reboot slash remake, 2009, Friday the 13th. This movie, shout out to my good friend from back in the day, Conrad, who loved this movie. And we watched this movie together. He showed me this movie. And I would say this movie is a welcome iteration of Friday the 13th as compared to its original predecessor. This movie came out February 13th, Friday the 13th, 2009. The budget of this movie was $17 million. Opening weekend was $40 million plus, which is a great opening weekend. Worldwide ended up grossing a little over $92 million. Another horror movie success. The plotline of this movie, according to the International Movie Database, is a group of young adults visit a boarded up campsite named Crystal Lake, where they soon encounter the mysterious Jason Voorhees and his deadly intentions. I would say that's slightly off from what
I was going to say, that's not an accurate description of this movie at all.
What the movie is that a group of young adults go to a rich kid's vacation home that his parents own, and they party, and then they also happen to stumble across the remains of the campsite along the way. Anyway, it's still very similar. There are some flashbacks at the beginning of the movie to tie it. They do a remake of the original Friday the 13th, where they have an actress play the old lady, and they kind of redo that. And we kick off the movie. Remington, I talked to you about this, and you said that you like this movie more, that this movie perhaps to you was more of an action movie than it was a horror movie. Let us know what kind of were your thoughts of this, the sequel, remake, whatever you want to call it, of Friday the 13th.
I thought it was a fun movie. I thought this was fun. The kills are creative. It has the classic tropes of like stupid characters that you want to see die and you don't mind. And but it sold me right out the gate when I saw Jared Padalecki's name come up. I was like, my boy Sam is in it. Let's go. I love Jared Padalecki. I watched 10 seasons of Supernatural. Love him. Love Jensen. And I think he's a criminally underused actor. Funnily enough, I have also seen him in another very terrible horror movie, which if you could name, House of Wax.
Oh, I never saw House of Wax.
Yeah, that's a horrible one. Yeah,
definitely not the one with Vincent Price.
Definitely not. Yeah.
No.
So Jared's in that. He plays a guy in that. Not as douchey. I don't remember how douchey is in that, but that one's older. That's earlier. And
I just remember Paris Hilton.
Yes.
That's right.
But anyway, so that being said, I really enjoyed watching this version, and it's all Michael Bay's Michael Bay is a producer in this movie, and Steve Jablonsky is the music the composer who also did Transformers, and he also did Pain and Gain. He's a Michael Bay guy. So yeah, it's got a lot of names in there that I like. And I just want to say, in the future, when we're all watching AI-generated garbage, we will look back and long for the days where we had Michael Bay. We will. That will happen. That being said, the kills are creative, and I like that. I like that just right out the gate. It's just murder, tits, like right, literally. And I was like, and then I checked it at the 23-minute mark. It goes Friday the 13th, and I was like, I was like, because when they started killing people, I didn't know that those were not the main characters. They just kill people right out the gates, and I'm like, there's like one person still left alive, and there's an hour to go in this movie. Anyway, I love that they kind of defer your expectations right there at the get go. And I think it's a lot of fun. It's not great, but it's a lot of fun.
I mean,
Jason, yeah.
Like you said, totally different feel right off the bat. This is not the same movie. It has the same name, but it totally different feel. But this is 4 movies in one, essentially. That they took the
Right.
best parts of the first 4 Friday the 13th movies and kind of made it into one, which I thought was very clever. You didn't need to spend the whole time on the mom, the origin story. It's the opening credits or the entire first movie, like we just reviewed. It took us, 45 minutes to talk about it. They summed up the whole thing in like a 2 minute black and white, rainy shot, So I love the pace of this movie. It moves along very fast. It has all the check boxes of a horror movie, and it has much more of that different presence, and what I really, really love about the Friday the 13th series as a whole, and they really embody it more in this movie and the last movie, is it is so unlike the Saw movies, where it's not taking pleasure on the pain of the victim. It's not like I'm going to torture you and kill you. It's not like I'm going to cut your Achilles and then chase you and everything like that. This movie is boom, dead, boom, dead, boom, dead. There's very few, maybe the guy getting chopped or caught in the bear trap, and the girl getting like burnt at the same time in the sleeping bag, which was fucking horrifying, first off. But like, there's not too many tortures. It's like, I see you, I chop you in the head. I see you, I do something straight through you. And that's like almost reassuring in a fucking weird ass way as I'm saying it. It's like, I rather like see these people get killed immediately than have these very long torturous scenes, which I feel like this movie does a really good job on. So, but the thing I couldn't get over this is when this movie is happening. It's 2009, which there is, I distinctively remember this because I was going to the theaters a lot during this time. This is the horror remake years. I think it started maybe 2007 or 8, or maybe continued a little farther, but they remade Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Nightmare on Elm Street all within this period of time. And it was the same guys. It was Michael Bay, Brad Fuller, and Andrew Form that did all of these movies. So you're sitting there worried. I remember even thinking this, like, this Friday the 13th is going to be exactly like Halloween, exactly like the other thing. But they were able to like make each movie its own kind of thing during that time, which I really enjoyed. But it was strange. I remember during this time where it was like everything from the 80s was getting remade, which they did very well with this one. So Remy, I couldn't agree with you more. This has a different feel. It's quick, it's fast, it's fun, it's a little bit different slasher rather than the detective kind of a little bit more of the last one. So just excited to talk about this one as I am the last one.
This movie, for me, it does move a lot faster. I don't remember ever seeing this movie when it came out, because as I was watching it, I was expecting to be like, oh yeah, I remember that. But like, I don't think I had ever seen this movie before. So I went in not really sure why the first group of people were getting killed off so quickly. And then when it's like 6 weeks later, or however much time has passed, I was like, oh, okay. And I've seen like a lot of movies and like understand a lot of tropes and stuff. So when Whitney and her boyfriend are like messing around in the house and they find that locket and he tells her, oh, that looks like you, I was like, oh, that's going to be important somehow.
Yeah.
Like, I kept that in my head, like, that's going to mean something, because you don't just say that in a horror movie. So, yeah, there was that, and there was the fact that these characters, like, some of the characters are a lot more, you just don't like some of them. Like, the main blonde haired guy, you're just like, ugh, he's like an awful human being. Like, he has no sympathy for this poor dude that's looking for his sister. He's just like being so rude to him in the store for no reason. It's like, you're not in a hurry. You're going to a cabin. You could chill for a minute while he's trying to like get information. But no, he had to be such a jerk. So yeah, you don't feel bad when that guy dies. You're rooting for it. Like, you want it to happen. But I did enjoy this movie a lot more, and there were parts that maybe were a little confusing, but we'll talk about that.
This movie is best watched directly after the original Friday the 13th, because it makes this movie look so much better Whereas generally speaking, I'd say this is kind of a generic slasher. People get killed, douchey. You don't really care about anybody other than, the one guy from Supernatural that they make kind of the golden boy. He is kind of he's clearly a good person as opposed to everyone else. But it is, the kill, it definitely is much better viewing experience than the original Friday the 13th. The kills are much better, and especially when there's the intro part of the movie, but it takes a while from the intro to the new group of people that you're introduced to that are trying to go out to the house of the rich boy and have fun, and then not Dax Shepard, guy that looks like Dax Shepard, him and his girl go out on a boat and they're like having fun, and that's what's it is a nostalgia thing for me. The 2000s at the time, you just think of like rock music, like bad coloring, like where it's like so yellow or so red, and it's like and like people showing tits and having fun and saying all these terrible things. And it's like there's so many movies like this, but going back and watching it, it's so refreshing just because everything now is so sanitized, so clean. Everything has to be so politically correct. You go back to a movie like this and it's just like, fuck it. This is a horror movie. You're getting blood, tits, and death. Fuck yeah, America! Like, this is what we fucking paid for. This is what we want. Don't tell me no fucking lessons about anything. So anyway,
that's Michael Bay for you. That's Michael Bay in a nutshell.
Michael fucking Bay, God bless him. He's only aged better with like the fact that you just don't get movies like this because people are too scared to try anything. And it's great when not Dax Shepard is on the boat with his girlfriend on the fucking whatever you call it. What is it called?
She's wakeboarding.
Wakeboarding behind, and then out of nowhere you just get a loud sound effect like chunk, fucking arrow through the head, and then he's fucking dead, and then she fucking collides head first into the fucking boat, and you're like, oh. And the best part of the movie, I mean, it is the best part of the movie. She fucking is trying to escape. She's fucking confused. She doesn't know what's going on. She goes underneath a fucking wooden board that's shooting out into the lake, and Jason comes walking over, and she's looking down at him, and she's underwater, and all of a sudden a fucking machete comes down, sticks her, but what really kills it is that he brings her up and her naked tits come up over the water. I mean, that was fucking glorious. Absolutely fucking cinematic gold. That's the shit I miss. Shit like that where it's just gratuitous nonsense, but it's good fucking horror fucking bullshit. Oh my God.
I mean, it hit all the marks, and not only did it do all that, but it did it in the daytime too. You don't see daytime kills in a horror movie. That's the first thing I thought about. Like, oh, we're starting this off. We're not waiting until sunset or the first person sitting around the campfire being like, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that over there?" We got it right off where they were just at our least suspected moments. That's what's great when a movie does that.
That's what I really, and that's one of the things that it makes me really feel like it's more of an action film and not a horror film, is because there's so many kills that they don't even really care to put in the element of surprise or jump scare. It's just like you see Jason just standing out there in the middle of the woods waiting for her, and it's like it's not like a shock that she dies. It's just they do it in so many different ways that it's just about the killings. Not like, let's make this as scary as possible. But I literally called it, dude, and that is my favorite death of the whole movie. I mean, it's the best. But I did call it. And when he's walking over and I'm like, oh, he's going to stick the machete straight down into her head. I said it. Tony's sitting there and I look over to her and I'm like, he's going to stick the machete straight down into her head. But I did not expect which made me burst out into laughter. It was so funny. It's so good. It's so stupid. Just great stuff.
So watching this movie, so we went to the theaters, all of us as friends, to go see this movie because someone I grew up with is in this movie. And it's funny that you guys immediately talk about the douchiest character in this movie. Trent is Travis Van Winkle. It is someone I went to high school with, and it was one of those relationships of like, hey, in the hallway, passing and same circle of friends and maybe seeing at a party or whatnot. But definitely knew him, and this is him. It's like, of course, I'm not the most BFF with him, but dude, a couple times I'm like, you are a douchebag. You are this guy right here. And yeah, Travis, if you're watching, sorry, but sucks that are easy for you to play yourself in a movie. Good for you, man. But he has a very large IMDb database of other movies where I'm sure he's stressed his acting chops. But the whole time I'm watching this movie this time, because it's been a while since I saw this one. I maybe saw this once when it first came out, never did a rewatch, but the entire time I'm watching it this time, I'm like, oh, Travis, you're such a douche in this scene and that scene, XYZ. So, yeah, that's something I had a different, I don't know if anyone else has ever watched a movie where someone who's in it. That's very strange. We're going to always maybe have some like random YouTube video or something like this where we know someone in it, but an actual like movie on the screen. Do you guys know anyone who's ever been in anything like that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah?
I do not. That's the thing, is that I like know of people, or I know of people that have worked behind the camera, but like to see someone on screen, that has to be a crazy thing, because and that is what a lot of actors talk about, is that it's so hard for people they know to take them seriously.
Yeah.
You can get a legitimate actor like a Christian Bale or Johnny Depp, like person that has done great work on camera, but their friends they grow up with, like, look at them and are like, dude, like, are you kidding me? Like, yeah, who's going to take you seriously?
You can't
I work with a ton of actors at my job, and I'll see them in stuff on Netflix. Like, I'm just like, oh yeah, I know her. That's crazy. She just said a couple lines, and it's crazy. Nobody who's been like, I guess, the main character, but big enough of a role for me to be like, holy crap, like, I know him, So it is pretty crazy though when you see that.
It was hard for me to immerse myself in the movie and the character a little bit, so it's an extra, like, I always talk about that suspension of disbelief, but it's harder when you're like, yeah, I know that guy, even though you're playing someone not too far off from how I know you as, but it's still even hard. Yeah. But just had to throw that in there. But yeah, what was the next
shout out? Okay, I forgot. Shout out Tom Plumley. Tom Plumley, I knew growing up in the same town. He was in a McDonald's commercial as the main person in a McDonald's commercial, and it blew my mind, because this guy that I knew as a kid, when I was a kid, and all of a sudden he was like the main dude in the 30-second McDonald's commercial, and I was like, it's just weird. It's weird watching on like McDonald's, and it's like the ad, and it's like a national advertisement, and you're like, oh shit, that's the guy. I know that guy. Anyway.
Yeah, there's a girl I went to college with who does adult films now. Like that was interesting to see her doing that kind of stuff.
It's just weird that we knew her from different angles of her
life. Hilarious. Hilarious.
Anyway, so the movie has a bunch of glorious kills. It is it does this movie, it's very obvious Jason is the killer of this movie, whereas the first movie it's ambiguous and then it's revealed it's the mom. Ms. Bryant, the Jason being the killer, like, how did you feel about him being the killer? How they portray him in this movie? Is there anything interesting about his character that you find?
There's one cheesy moment that I love so much, and it's when he finds the hockey mask for the first time, and then it's there and it's like illuminated, and he's just like, oh, and he picks it up and he puts it on and looks at himself in the mirror, and I was like, I love this scene so much.
Good. Hopefully you were saying it's cheesy in a good way. So it's cheesy in a good way.
Yeah, I loved it.
I love that scene too. I love that scene. I thought that was such a cool when I initially saw him with like the scarecrow style mask. that I was like, oh, cool. Like I was like assuming at some point he's gonna get the thing, and I just like it's very super villain-esque of just kind of watching them progress.
So it takes him to the third movie, Friday the 13th Part 3, to actually get the ski mask. So first movie, of course, Mrs. Voorhees. Second movie is Jason, but he wears a burlap sack over his head with 2 pretty much eye holes in it for the entire second movie. And then the third movie, it gets ripped off. He runs into a barn and he comes back out with the hockey mask on. So you don't really see like him finding it or like crowning it for the first time. So it was so cool to like see like them to actually take some time to be like, what would it, take for him to see that? And other thing, they did a very 100% mold of the first mask to the second mask, so it's exactly like the same look and everything like that from the first one. So one of my favorite things is how Jason is portrayed in this movie, where he is like smart. I don't know if I want to go that far saying that word, but setting up a bell system with like wires that around the woods so he can be down in there and hear people, things like that's another level right there. That's not some bumbling idiot running around the woods macheting people, and then just how he was a little bit smarter, a little bit quicker. What was another scene? Oh, when he strolls up to the house for the first time, which is another such a cool thing about this movie, where you see a perspective of someone who is seeing the killer, but the killer doesn't know that they're there, where they're hidden underneath the canoes at Jason's like cabin in Crystal Lake. Your boy from Supernatural and the homegirl. And he's coming back with a body over his shoulder and another body right here, just like it's absolutely nothing, like skipping through the woods, and sees the backpack, I think, on the ground of the guy, the motorcycle guy, throws the bodies down, looks for the backpack, looks at it, realizes that someone else has been here, flips the floodlights on too, doesn't come around like some bumbling idiot, like, someone's here. I'm gonna turn on some lights and then look at the first spot where someone could be under. I'm going to rip off all these canoes. Doesn't see anyone, so I'm going to actually just go away after that. So it starts to like roll some sort of thing where he is a strategic, killer and all this. So I loved that aspect of Jason, where he wasn't just some, crazy kid who grew up in the woods eating raccoons, because that's a big question about all this is like, did Jason really die? Did he just, the mom thought he drowned in the lake and he like stumbled out on the other side, and she's like, well, I guess he's dead, and leaves, out of the woods and leaves this kid to survive in the woods for a long time? Or did he actually die under the water and there's this supernatural things that bring him back out, and sort of things? Is a very like weird line that they've always traveled in this movies. And then, what the fuck is he doing for 30 years in the woods, and how he survives? Is he eating people, or is he just eating squirrels, or has he found a Nintendo and he's just sitting in the woods playing Nintendo for 30 years, or is it this is his mom's head that he's worshiping, this idol kind of stuff, so there is like this cool lore where they kind of just they brush on it more, I think, in the other Friday the 13th movies, but you see a lot of it more in this movie. So I'm so glad that they took 4 movies and kind of crammed it into one to take some of the best parts out of it.
That's why he's the boogeyman. One thing though that was confusing for me, like with the locket, was that supposed to be like his mom's picture from when she was young, and then that's why he kept Whitney like chained up, because
that's what I took from it. Yeah, that his resemblance to his own mom. Yeah, because I
know in a later movie he had a sister suddenly.
In
Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah, that's like how they stop him in like Freddy vs. Jason. It's like one of his blood relatives has to stop him, which same writers of Freddy vs. Jason is for this movie right here, which is kind of crazy. Take this supernatural like Freddy Krueger versus Jason, like crazy ass stupid idea, because I think at this point this is number 10 or 11 in the Friday the 13th saga, and then like, okay, we're gonna do a remake of this. Let's get the people who did the Freddy vs. Jason one to write this new remake one, Yeah. The last people I'd be choosing, but yeah, no, you're so right.
I also like the way he'll like kill a bunch of people, but then use their dead bodies to torture everybody else. Like he kills the girl upstairs in the bathroom, and then he throws her body out of the window, like onto everyone else. She's been stabbed, she's been shot, and now she's getting thrown out of a window. It's like, even your dead body is a weapon in the Friday the
Classic
13th.
Voorhees style. You got to throw the dead bodies through things and around and through
Like
windows.
mother, like son.
Yes, yeah.
It is interesting that Friday the 13th, that this movie came out in 2009. There has not been a Friday the 13th movie since this movie came out, which is pretty crazy considering this. Like the original movie came out in 1980. The second movie came out in 81. Like these movies came out very in quick succession, and there has not been a Friday the 13th movie. Jason, you touched on earlier the video game, which if you watch the original movie, you can't help but think if you've seen or played the video game, you're just like, oh my god, the video game does this franchise so good because it really gives you the same vibes, atmosphere, environment, characters. You're hiding from.
It's scary.
It's very scary. The way the video game does it is that basically you're either one of a assortment of camp counselors hiding and trying to get out of Camp Crystal Lake from the killer, or you are the killer. You are Jason, and you have these powers, and you can try to go around and find the camp counselors. It's very effective, and watching the first movie again, it gave me more appreciation for the video game because the video game did such a good job of giving you that same kind of idea of like either I'm a camp counselor trying to hide and get out of the fucking forest here, or you're Jason Voorhees and you're like, I'm gonna fucking find these people and strangle them and kill them. I can't help it. So,
I'm so glad you brought it.
yeah. So it is interesting that since 2009 there has been no movies, but that video game really did the best type of adaptation of the original Friday the 13th you could have possibly gotten.
No, I'm so glad you brought that up because I was thinking that the exact same thing the whole time I'm watching the first one. It's like, ooh, this is like the game. You know, I hadn't seen it or played it in a while. I'm like, ooh, I need to get it again. So I actually looked up the game's like on sale right now, like $4.99 on Steam, like super cheap. It's because they're losing rights to it at the end of this year. And the game is going to be deleted except if you own the game. So if you own the game, you can keep playing it. And they'll probably only do like online stuff for like a year after this. But that company is losing rights to Friday the 13th. But but no, to touch on the sequel thing. So Friday the 13th is one, the remake did really well the first weekend in the box office. Then fucking tanked the second weekend. It did decent, you know, as far as like making its money back and everything, but only made money that first weekend. And then it was like this big, like everyone going to the theaters hype. And then no one watched this thing again after it. They had a sequel like lined up, ready to go. After that second weekend happened, they canceled the sequel and then ended up losing rights to it because they didn't make something a year or 2 years of owning the rights to properties, which I think is so fucking weird that's how we do a lot of property rights to products. Is you got to keep pumping out content for this XYZ character or franchise every couple years, or rights will go back to a previous owner. So no matter you make some shitty Fantastic Four movie, because I think that's what plagued that series, is they just had to keep the rights to keep cranking out movies, or I'll just let this go back to someone since I can't make anything good. No, I got to put something out just shitty just so I can keep this kind of this product.
Yeah, I think that's how we ended up with that Edward Norton Hulk movie.
Oh, interesting. Kind of yeah, to keep the rights to the Hulk product. Yep, I bet you're absolutely right. So, yeah, it's. I'm glad they didn't put out something shitty when they couldn't get something together. But yeah, I would have loved to see more sequels of this style, Friday the 13th. You know, kind of moving forward.
No, you're right, Jason, because the opening weekend, as I mentioned, was for over $40 million. But the domestic total box office, domestically, not internationally, was $65 million, which is crazy that it only made $25 million more after the opening weekend.
Yeah,
it is weird that it dropped off that much. Final thoughts, ratings, Rembo, Mr. Positivity. How would you recommend this movie?
I'd give it a 6 out of 10. Like 6.5 out of 10. I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10. Not quite a 7. 7, you got to be like a good movie. I don't know. I wouldn't consider it a good movie, but it is very fun and I think there's a lot of good stuff to it. Final thoughts are just like I mean, obviously they're paying homage to the first movie with him jumping out of the lake at the last second, but I didn't need that. It doesn't make any sense because I'm like, they chopped his head into a wood chipper. Like, he's definitely dead. So otherwise you're going with he's a demonic spirit, dead, like an undead spirit thing, but that's not established anywhere else in the movie, so it doesn't make any sense. Where if like he was doing things that were super, I mean, there are a couple moments now. He gets stabbed in the leg and is sprinting like full speed after these people, getting up on roofs, jumping off of roofs, like after being stabbed. I do like the fact that he doesn't scream when he gets stabbed. He makes no noise. And I think that's an awesome detail.
It's creepy.
But that last scene just is so dumb. It's just like, you didn't need it at all. Like it, and then of course, but also it's not just dumb that he comes out of the water. Why did they bring his body to the lake?
No, I mean the first just makes no fucking sense is the fact that the chain gets caught in the wood chipper and his head is like right there but doesn't go in, and it makes no sense why they don't just grab his feet and just lift him up and just finish the fucking job and just be like, yeah, he's fucking minced fucking meat right now. Like, why they don't do that makes no fucking sense. And it's just like, because he's not getting fed into the wood chipper makes me think that he's going to come back, which he does 2 minutes later.
But why did they bring his body to the lake? That doesn't make any sense.
It's
like,
homage,
you didn't call
homage to the
authorities. You didn't call it it's just, what was that, Jason?
It's homage to the old movies. That's
I mean,
like,
yeah, right. It doesn't need to make sense.
Yeah, in one of the first four, that's how they kill him. They drown him back in that lake again because they have now killed him the same way that he died as a kid. That's like the only way to kill Jason is to drown him in Crystal Lake. So I think it was playing homage to that.
I would also give this movie a 2.5 out of 5.
Oh, out of 5.
I mean, yeah, it is a generic slasher. It does pay homage to the old, the films that it comes from. I also thought the ending was ridiculous. As soon as the scene cuts away from Jason, like barely in the wood chipper, and then they're chilling on the dock, I was like, what are you doing? Get out of town. Why are you still there? Why did you let the sun come up and you are still at Camp Crystal Lake? What is wrong with you people? I don't know why they would take his body out and like dump him in. It didn't make any sense. It was so stupid. And then him like jumping out. Yeah, I totally agree. That was ridiculous. It didn't need to end like that. I feel like it should have just ended with them like escaping, and then somehow we get another scene of where like, oh no, Jason's not really dead. That would have been like fine, and I would have been cool with that. But to go through all of that, his sister getting kidnapped, being held captive, and then he finds her and he sets her free, and they fight and they kill Jason, and then they stick around. They stick around. Why? Why did you do that? I was so frustrated. I was like vocal about it too. So yeah, 2.5 out of 5.
That's funny. Me? Yeah, I mean, it brought nothing new to the table as far as like how this movie goes. I definitely, I guess I've watched a lot of these movies, much more than I expected. Than out of all four of us too. I didn't realize the extent of my Friday the 13th viewing over the years. But I mean, it's cool that it took 4 movies and put them into one. But I when I was watching this the first time, I remember being like, I wanted something new being brought to the franchise, or maybe some like, I guess an origin story, or maybe like seeing more of the mom or something like that. I had such different expectations for this movie, what they were going to do with it. So it was cool though that they picked the best parts of the slasher genre over these 4 and doing it. So I don't hold it in high esteem as the first one, just for like the cult kind of following. So like more like a 3 or 4 out of 10 or something like that for me. But still enjoyable though. It is like when I love Cabin in the Woods. Like I love what Cabin in the Woods is because it is making fun of the franchise and it's hitting all those points and things like that too. So this, as far as a movie does that, I wish it was more self-aware of itself. It is trying to be a little cooler than it should be, and it would be funny if it poked itself a little more fun, but or poked it, fun at itself, but. Yeah, I can't give it higher than a 3 or 4.
Out of 10, I mean that is like awful. If you're below 5 out of 10, that is awful.
I mean, yeah, no. I mean, I don't know about awful because just I put the last one at 6, though, it's like I can't give anything.
4 out of 10 is like below 50%. Like if you on a test get a 4 out of 10, the teacher hates you.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad after saying it. Actually, you're absolutely right. Thanks for calling me out, but I'm gonna stick with it, though.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with it. Yeah. So, but no, I had a great fucking time, and like you said, it was great watching the first one and then watching this one immediately afterwards. That's what I did last night, and it was very cool to be like back in this genre and this specific genre of the slasher, the horror where it does that. So. Yeah, an enjoyable experience, if you can say that for a horror movie.
I'd give it 6 out of 10. It does have the horror slasher tropes of like, do you care about any of these characters? No. Do all the kills are all the kills great? No, but there are enough kills that are great, and I do like that Jason is this unstoppable force. He is smarter, Jason, like you said. I do like that he does have traps, and he's not just dumb, clumsy person. They don't delve into why he's smart, which is fine, but it is an interesting question of Jason sets these traps. Why is he capturing? I guess it's because of his mom. He's capturing this other woman. But there are interesting questions, and the movie generally it does a good job of keeping everyone douchey. Shout out Han. From Fast and Furious, who's also in this movie.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That is
also good to see him being the guy they play beer pong in this game, and Douchey McDoucherson from Jason's Past is a terrible beer pong player who apparently lost 10 beer pong games in a row, bro. Like if I was you, I'd be like, I'm not agreeing with this script. This script needs to change it. I did not lose 10 beer pong games in a row because. Come on, man. You can't lose 10 beer pong games in a row. I've lost 3 in a row once, and I had to strip down to my naked body because of how bad I played. That's the true story. Anyway, not important.
For another episode.
A fun movie. Like, I've seen the first Friday the 13th, the second Friday the 13th, and part of the third. And I would say out of all of the movies, those and this one, watch this one. 2009 is just a better experience. You get the killing, you get the fun, you get the douchebags that die and don't give a fuck about. So I would agree with all that. But generally speaking, Halloween is just a better franchise when trying to have the unstoppable force that is the killer. And that's all fun. And well, I would say, and that's last page.